Have you ever seen a creature with a boomerang growing out of its head? 300 million years ago, there really was a creature whose head evolved into the shape of a boomerang. And it was intentional. This thing is called Diplocaulus. Its head was even wider than its body. On the left and right sides, two sharp horns extended outward, like a boomerang stuck into its neck. But the strangest thing is this. Even today, scientists still haven't fully figured out what that head was actually for. Some say it functioned like an underwater glider wing. With a slight swing of the head, the body could change direction. Others believe it was a defensive weapon, making it impossible for predators to swallow it. Another theory suggests it was a water flow stabilizer, helping it maintain balance in strong currents. The most outrageous part is that this boomerang-shaped head kept becoming more exaggerated as it grew. When it was young, its head was still relatively round. But the older it got, the flatter and wider the head became. What does that mean? It means the longer it lived, the more ridiculous its head became. With this bizarre head, it crawled through swamps for 50 million years until it finally went extinct during the Permian period. But when scientists studied its fossils, they discovered something even stranger. Its neck could barely rotate. The boomerang head could only swing side to side within a very limited range. If it wanted to look behind itself, it had to twist its entire body around. Evolution had played the ultimate joke on it. It gave it the most bizarre appearance imaginable, yet forced it to live its entire life in the most rigid posture possible. Today, I'm going to tell you what secret lies behind the most absurd head in the history of life. In 1980, a group of scientists conducted a crazy experiment. They reconstructed the skull of Diplocaulus at a 1-to-1 scale and then placed it in a wind tunnel. The moment the results came out, everyone was shocked. This boomerang-shaped head could actually generate lift. When water struck the head at a specific angle, it could act like an airplane wing, lifting the entire body upward. What does that mean? When Diplocaulus lay on the riverbed hunting, once it spotted prey, it could lift its head and flick its tail, and its whole body would surge upward like a missile launching toward prey near the surface. This entire movement took only 0.5 seconds. The prey didn't even have time to react. But the more terrifying part was this. Its skull weighed 1/3 of its entire body weight. To support such a massive head, its cervical vertebrae evolved an extremely reinforced structure. And the price? Its neck became completely stiff, so it could spend its entire life only staring straight ahead. But here comes the question. Was this equipment really worth it? Scientists discovered a detail in the fossils that left everyone stunned. The skull of juvenile Diplocaulus was actually round, not very different from ordinary amphibians. But when it reached adulthood, the boomerang head began growing wildly and it grew asymmetrically. Some fossils show that the horn on the left side was twice as long as the one on the right. What does that mean? It means that when an adult Diplocaulus swam, its body would tilt to one side, making it impossible to swim in a straight line. To correct this imbalance, it had to constantly adjust direction using its tail. Swimming 100 meters cost it 3 times more energy than normal amphibians. The most extreme fossil discovered had a skull 40 centimeters wide, while the body length was only 1 meter. If that proportion were applied to a human, it would be like entering the Olympic swimming competition with a 1 meter wide head on your shoulders. But the real nightmare for Diplocaulus was not its bizarre head. It was the era it lived in. 270 million years ago, during the Permian period, Earth was experiencing an unprecedented catastrophe. Supervolcano eruptions, a sharp drop in oxygen levels, global warming, ocean acidification. Creatures that were agile and highly adaptable escaped the disaster zones. But Diplocaulus? With that rigid boomerang head, it couldn't escape even if it wanted to. Fossil records show that during the Permian extinction, its population plummeted by 90%. The last fossils of Diplocaulus were discovered in Morocco. By then, they had already been forced into a remote corner of Africa, barely surviving. In the end, this species that had dominated Earth for 50 million years completely disappeared. And today, when scientists study Diplocaulus fossils, they have discovered something that is truly unsettling. Its skull fossils contain a large number of vascular grooves. What does that indicate? It suggests that this boomerang head was not just bone. It was probably covered by a thick layer of skin membrane, like the wings of a stingray. Some scientists even believe that when Diplocaulus was alive, the two sides of its head might have been connected by skin folds. The entire creature might have looked like a swimming kite. Imagine this scene. 300 million years ago, on a riverbed, a monster with a kite on its head is staring straight at you with those tiny, pitiful eyes. That image alone would be enough to give you nightmares for an entire night. In the game of evolution, there has never been a perfect winner. Diplocaulus spent 50 million years proving one thing. Sometimes the coolest weapon can also become the deadliest shackle. Its boomerang head was both the secret weapon that allowed it to dominate the waters, and the death sentence that ultimately led to its extinction. And what about us humans? Perhaps one day in the future, another species will dig up our fossils and laugh at us, wondering why we evolved such enormous heads that consume so much energy.